Have you ever stopped to think about how something as critical as a medical ventilator actually gets designed? It's pretty amazing. Today, we're going to peek behind the curtain and see how engineers go from a simple idea to an intelligent, life-saving machine. We're talking about building a complete digital version first, a virtual blueprint, and then giving that blueprint an artificial brain.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to dig into the problem itself, why we even need smarter ventilators. Then, we'll get into the cool engineering part, building what's called a digital twin. After that, we'll see how they literally give this machine a brain using AI, put it through its paces with a virtual patient, and finally, look at the proof that this whole thing actually works.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Section 1. We need to understand the core challenge here. What was the problem that sent engineers back to the drawing board in the first place?
We all remember it, right? During the pandemic, there was this massive, urgent need for ventilators. But what became really clear really fast was that just having a machine wasn't enough. The real engineering problem is that every single patient is different. Their lungs are different. Their condition is different. They need support that is precisely tailored to them.
And just look at how different that support needs to be. This table says it all. A patient with COPD needs a much smaller breath, about half the volume of a healthy person, but they need to breathe way faster, like 35 breaths a minute compared to a normal 15. A ventilator has to be smart enough to handle these completely different needs perfectly and instantly. That's a huge challenge.
So how in the world do you build a machine that can handle that kind of complexity? Well, you don't start by grabbing a wrench and some tubing. You start in the computer by building a perfect virtual copy, what engineers call a digital twin.
And the tool of choice for this is a program called Simulink. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a box of digital Legos for engineers. They can snap together virtual parts, build incredibly complex machines, and test them right on their screen, long before a single physical piece is ever made.
And this right here, this is what that digital blueprint looks like. It might look like just a flowchart, but every single block, every line, represents a real-world component. A valve, a motor, a sensor, the flow of air itself. This isn't just a drawing. It's a living, breathing model that behaves exactly like the real ventilator would.
So this brings up a really important question, right? How do you take a physical thing, like air moving through a tube, and translate it into the pure language of computers and code?
The answer is pure, beautiful mathematics. Engineers use something called a transfer function, that complex-looking equation you see here. But don't let it intimidate you. Just think of it as the system's core DNA. It's one single mathematical rule that tells the computer exactly how an input, like telling a valve to open, gets transferred into an output, like the precise amount of air a patient receives. It's the machine's soul, written in math.
Okay, so we've got the digital body all built. Now comes the really futuristic part. It's time to give our ventilator a brain.
And that brain is something called a feed-forward neural network. It's a type of AI that's basically designed to mimic how our own brains work. It's all about recognizing patterns in data and then using those patterns to make an intelligent decision. In our case, the decision is, what kind of condition does this patient have?
And teaching this brain is a step-by-step process. You start by feeding it a ton of data from different patient conditions. Then, you let the network go to work. It chews on that data, learning and relearning, looking for the tiny, subtle patterns that separate a normal patient from someone with COPD or pneumonia, until it gets really, really good at telling them apart, all on its own.
And here's what that brain looks like under the hood. You've got data coming in the top layer. Then it hits that hidden layer in the middle. That's where all the complex pattern recognition happens. And finally, it all funnels down to the output layer, which makes the final call. Is this patient normal, COPD, or pneumonia?
So, the digital body is built, the AI brain is trained and installed. You know what that means? It's time to put this thing to the test with a virtual patient.
And this is where it all comes together. It's just fantastic. On the left, you see the simulation for a healthy lung. Nice, even waves of airflow and pressure. But now look at the right. That's the simulation for a COPD patient. See how the breaths are way faster and shallower? This is the proof. The AI correctly identified the condition and automatically changed how the ventilator was working to match.
And the overall results from these simulations? Well, they were a home run. The virtual tests proved the AI could precisely control everything: airflow, pressure, volume, and adapt on the fly to each different patient model. And just as important, it did it all safely and stayed perfectly stable. It passed the virtual stress test with flying colors.
Okay, the simulations look amazing on a computer screen, but what's the final verdict?
We get down to the hard numbers. Just how good is this AI design really?
The number you want to know is 84%. In the tests, this feed-forward neural network was able to correctly identify the patient's condition and apply the exact right breathing support with 84% accuracy. For an automated system making such a critical decision, that is a seriously promising result.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The researchers who designed this whole system came to a really powerful conclusion. They said that this isn't just a cool academic project. The design is stable and effective enough that it could actually be used in a hospital to give patients the best possible respiratory care.
You know, seeing this whole process, from a mathematical blueprint in the computer to a fully trained artificial brain, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? It leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. As AI gets even smarter and more powerful, what's next? What other medical devices could soon learn to think for themselves?